Welcome back to the Inner Magic School podcast. If you don't know, I am Sarah Drury, your host, and I am a business mentor and a hypnotherapist, and I help, and this podcast is for women who are creative, who are experts in their industry, who are coaches, and they're ready to remove all of the subconscious blocks and obstacles and fast track their business success. So if that sounds like you, I'm so happy that you are here. Let's just jump right into it. So I want to talk today about the number one way that most people, so if you are like most people, then this may pertain to you, the number one way that you sabotage yourself, that most people sabotage themselves when it comes to business. So what is it? You know, I don't like to beat around the bush. I like to just jump right in. So let's get into it. The number one way that most people sabotage themselves is their inner dialogue, their self-talk. Because most people do not have on autopilot really helpful, empowering, uplifting self-talk, right? Most people, and this is not any knock on anybody, every person has this. It's kind of even built in to our biology, right? It's a thing that our brain does to keep us safe, is to kind of look around for the negativity and for the bad situations that could occur. So if this is speaking to you, if you are someone who has negative self-talk, first of all, I don't want you to now beat yourself up because you do, because again, most people are doing this, and it is partly because we are wired that way. We are just wired to look out for what could occur negatively so that we can kind of like be ready for it, right? And this, of course, goes back to caveman days. You've probably heard about all of this, where we really, again, our biology is made up to protect us, to keep us safe. And so now we fast forward to modern day and time, and we are still doing that. Even though we're not running from saber-toothed tigers, we don't need to go foraging for berries and be on the lookout for what's right around the corner that could potentially kill us, right? And yet we still have this negative self-talk that comes up. So what does that look like in an everyday basis? Well, let's talk about it, especially in a business situation. If you have some kind of business goal that you are trying to reach, and you say things to yourself like, I'm just not ready yet, it doesn't look that good, nobody cares what I have to say anyway, nobody's going to show up, nobody's going to participate, nobody's liking or commenting my posts, whatever it is, right? It's all too overwhelming, or I just can't do that. I'm not a kind of person that could do that. These are all things that, for the most part, everybody says to themselves, right? So I want to look at, in this podcast in particular, how more successful people think, right? So if you want to be successful, this is one of the areas that you are absolutely going to have to look at and start to shift some things around and make some changes in your inner dialogue, in your self-talk. Because again, on autopilot, we have this negative stuff that comes up. So what we need to look at is redirecting some of these things and starting to really bring in some more positive self-talk, some more empowering, some more helpful inner dialogue, and have that on autopilot. So I want to just kind of like flush this all out a little bit further though, and really dig into why this matters so much. So here's the thing. When it comes to our inner dialogue, it actually is going to affect, right? It's going to affect whatever outcome it is that you are looking to achieve, whether it is in your business or whatever. So, for example, this is what might occur for you. One, you have a thought that pops in, this inner dialogue, this self-talk. I can't do that. It's too overwhelming. All the things I just said. No one cares what I have to say. Well, that then forms the belief that you now hold that no one cares what you have to say. So what is that going to do to your motivation, to your attitude, right? So that's the next thing. This is how this affects the outcome, because if you now have a belief that no one cares what you have to say, and that's affecting your attitude, that's going to affect how you feel, right? And then how you feel is going to start to affect your behavior and how you show up in your business and how you show up on social media and how you show up on all of it, right? How you show up in your business. If you are a person who now believes that no one cares what you have to say, that's one, going to make you feel bad, and two, going to make you probably not show up in a more powerful way and start to put yourself out there, right? So then what happens after that? Well, now, if you're not putting yourself out there, if you're not showing up online, if you're not showing up in your business in a powerful way, now you've affected the entire outcome. Do you see how this starts to come together? All because, let's back it up, because of our inner dialogue, the self-talk. That is why it is vitally important that you back it all the way up to this part of it and start to reframe and change the way that you speak to yourself every single day, the inner dialogue that pops up into your brain on autopilot. Now, this is all about creating a new habit, right? This is about creating a new, more helpful way of thinking. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, I want to mention a couple of things. First, I have a download for you that I'm going to walk you through a little process of how you can do this, how you can understand, again, how it's kind of coming all the way to the outcome from how you speak to yourself every day and what your inner dialogue is like. And then we're going to walk it all the way out to changing that outcome. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. So you can just download that worksheet. I also want to mention 2 books. One of them is a very powerful book by Shad Helmstetter, and it is called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. And it'll just lay it all out for you. So if you want to know what a better way to talk to yourself is to get a more helpful outcome, a more positive outcome, then make sure you grab this book because it walks you through everything. It's a very, very, very powerful book, easy read, lots of good info in there that will go even a little bit deeper than what I can on this podcast. So grab that book. It's really, really wonderful. And then the next book that I want to mention is, shameless plug, my very own. And that is 21 Days to Self-Love. The first chapter, the first day, is all about your inner dialogue and your self-talk. And I go through some ways of how to reframe and change it. So 2 resources for you. And then of course, like I said, I have that free download worksheet that you can just snag. You just pop your name and email in, just tell me where to send it, and it'll pop right over to you. And this will walk you through an exercise of how to shift and how to change this for yourself. So make sure that you grab all of those things because they're all going to support you in this. Because let's now talk about what it might look like if you had a more positive self-talk inner dialogue. And I know that you know this, right? I know that you are smart and that you are already somewhat successful in your business. And so I'm not telling you this to talk down to you in any way. These are still things I work on and I tweak all the time for myself, because the thing is, we can be really smart and successful and still have places that this self-doubt and these negative things pop up for us, because This is a lifelong journey. When you're in a business, when you're building something that nobody else has a vision for, this is natural for negativity to pop up. Remember, it's almost a self-protection mechanism that we are installed with at birth. And so it's not even that you don't know how to do this, but so often we can help other people, but then we kind of forget to turn it all back around toward what it is that we are dealing with and maybe struggling with in ourselves. And so this is a way for you to understand how this all plays out for you. So let's talk about how this could kind of go the other direction when you apply the positive self-talk. Okay, so if you are saying something like, so let's take my book, for example, because guess what? I have no problem, no shame in telling you that you should go buy my book. It is $21, and guess what? It could change your life. Why do I have no problem telling you that? Because I genuinely believe, based on my self-talk, that I poured my heart and soul into this, right? I tell myself these things. I poured my heart and soul into this. Some of this stuff that is in this book, I don't even believe came from me. I believe it came from a higher source, something outside of myself, because I was open to that, first of all. But then when it comes to my self-talk, I say, I genuinely wrote this book to help people, and I poured everything into it and made it really bite-sized so that people who are just even starting down this journey or who've been on it a while could get something from this book, because it is a habit building book. It's based around the theory that if you dedicate yourself to this process for 21 days, then you will see some shifts and changes. Now, my self-talk around that is that I want to help people. I'm not asking you to buy this book just to put money in my pocket. Guess what? I don't make that much money from these books. And I pour it back into my business anyway. So my self-talk around it is that, yes, I have a belief now, after I've built the self-talk around it, that I want to help you. I want to help people. And it's from a genuinely loving place. And so that builds my belief, which makes my attitude around the book say, yes, I want people to have this book. It makes me feel happy to talk about it. My feelings around it then are, again, just like, yes, I want to help you. And then my behavior is, I get to show up now and say, without shame or feeling like you might think I'm bragging about myself, which I don't care if you do, that's okay, that I want you to buy my book. So that's my behavior now. Go buy my book. And then the outcome is some people will buy my book, right? And what would make me even more happy is if they then read the book, implement it, and had an amazing outcome for themselves. Okay. So do you see how, let's put what I just said about my book on maybe a project that you're working on, or a program that you have and that you want to develop. What are you saying about it to yourself? What do you believe to be true about it based on that? What is your attitude? How do you feel? What are your actions and behaviors? Because they are leading to the outcome. They are leading to either you getting the goal and moving toward it, or they are creating a gap away from it, right? So hopefully now you are seeing how powerful this is. If you are implementing this, you will discover for yourself the power around this one little tweak that you could make, and see huge, huge progress toward whatever the goal for your business that you are working on. So please make sure you go and download the free worksheet, and that will help you kind of walk through this process. And then grab the other resources. If they speak to you, don't, whatever is right for you. But what the main thing here is, how can you choose some kind of goal that you're working on, look at your self-talk, and then reframe it and rewire essentially your brain around it. Come up with a new, more helpful way of speaking to yourself so that you can drop the self-sabotage and get what you want. Because ultimately, that's what I want for you. So go and do that now, and then leave me a message. Come follow me on Instagram. I love connecting with people on Instagram at Sarah Drury. I would love to hear from you after you listen to this episode of what you thought and what you are working on reframing. If you need help with it, I would love to listen. You can send me a message, tell me what it is that you're working on, and I will help you come up with a reframe if you are struggling. So just send me a DM and we can work on this together. I would love to do that with you. That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking your time out and listening to this podcast. I know that if you implement these things, you will absolutely see and discover for yourself the power that you have within yourself to create anything and everything that you want. And that's what I call magic. And I will see you next time on